Without further ado, our wonderful host for this evening and our moderator, Francine Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Francine Brooks, and I'm honored to have this panel with us this evening. Thank you very much. I'm going to introduce you to the panels, and then you have a couple of minutes to talk about your business. Okay? Scott Fierle from Manzella Communications Marketing, Ron Viders from Dynabraid, and Cathy Piciulo from
Impressive Imprints.
Impressive Imprints. Okay, we'll keep it at that. So Cathy, give us a 2-minute information,
Thank
2 or
you.
3 minutes about your business and what you do.
Thank you, Francine. Francine and I have known each other for a long time because our businesses are related. So Impressive Imprints is a promotional products and apparel company, and I work with companies handling human resources or apparel or employee recognition, trade shows, anything along those lines, because there are a number of promotional products or wearable goods that can be, utilized in any of those areas. The greatest thing about our company is that we're local and also not local. So that makes a kind of a combination to be able to service businesses anywhere in the world. And the reason I say we're local is because I'm local. But the supporting company that I work with, Halo Branded Solutions, is out of Illinois, and they are a worldwide company. So they have they're one of the largest in the country. I think second next to Staples. Staples is the biggest, but they are supporting me in everything I do here, and hence supporting you. So the great reason, or the great thing that I can offer, is just personal service. You can go online, you can buy promotional products, but you can also talk to me, and I have a lot of years of experience in advertising, marketing, and promotional products.
Thank you. Very good. Ron.
Hello, I am Ron Byers. Thank you, Francine, for having me. This is the first time I've ever done this, so if I screw up, I apologize. But yeah, exactly.
You're
Everything I know is mantra. So anyways, but I work at Dynabraid. Company has been around almost 50 years in the Buffalo area. We're right around the corner on Sheridan, almost when you get to Main Street. We're a manufacturer of pneumatic abrasive power tools, so orbital sanders and belt sanders. A lot of handheld, but we also do stationary equipment, source capture, vacuum. A lot of, it's mostly professional, so you find us in automotive OEM industry or aerospace or things of that nature. You won't find us at Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that. At least you shouldn't. Again, like I said, we've been around about 48 years. We're multinational. We have subsidiaries in India as well as in Europe and Luxembourg. So we're a national company. We are a sales-driven company, so when I was asked to do this in regards to trade shows, it's one of our lifebloods in getting leads. So when we get to that, I'll be able to discuss that further. Like I said, about a third of us, so about 100 people are direct salespeople. They're not like indirect sales reps. They are hired and owned by Dynabraid. So, but again, our biggest company, our competitors are probably 3M. We deal with them from an abrasive standpoint, Atlas Copco, Chicago Pneumatic, other people that do pneumatic abrasive power tools. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Scott.
Scott Fierle, worked for Manzella Marketing. Manzella's been around about 29 years. Up the street here at Harris Hill in Genesee.
It's convenient for all of you to get here.
Yes, very convenient.
Yes.
We're a full-service marketing agency, working from everything from direct mail to website development to digital marketing. So we work with a lot of different companies. We work with nonprofit. We work with business to business, business to consumer. And I appreciate Francine having us here today. We've done a lot of work recently with trade show support, trade show design, so hopefully you can contribute today.
Thank you. And I'm Francine Brooks with FB Displays and Designs, and I've been in business 24 years. And I have some of my staff here, Bill and Joe. And we design and build exhibits for companies, or obviously we go to trade shows. And our strength, I think, is that we've kept the business a very boutique-ish type of business where we develop a relationship with our clients, and we really consult with them to make sure that the solutions we provide fits their needs, and it's not something that we sell off the rack. So that's what we try to do and we endeavor to do with all our clients. So this evening, obviously, the discussion is on trade shows, and you have panelists from different walks of trade shows who come from different angles. So the answers are going to be very interesting because we have someone who sells products for people who go to trade shows, and Ron, whose business goes to trade show, and Scott, who works with companies that go to trade shows. So it's coming from very different angles. So the first question, I'm going to start with Scott. Why do you think trade shows make sense for your clients?
It's a captive audience. I mean, it's so important for them to be there. We hear time after time, we have all these different product lines, and a customer said to us the other day, we didn't realize that you did that, or we don't realize you did that. It's a captive audience that you can get in front of a lot of people that may not, our customers, their clients may not know what they do, how they do it, to show examples, to have those conversations, to be able to get to different areas of the country, different areas of the world, and meet those people and spread that word of what they're doing and letting people know what they have. And then the biggest thing is conversions. It's getting that person to have an appointment with them, or a follow-up, or a phone call, or what have you. And it's getting leads to grow their business. It's super important for them, and there's no other place that they can get that many leads in that quick of a time period.
You're right, absolutely. And Ron?
Yeah, so again, as I had mentioned, we're a sales-driven organization, so leads are our lifeblood. Attending trade shows are vital for us, and as Scott had mentioned, just that amount of leads in that short of a time span is integral. And where trade shows come in for us is we tend to want to put the tool in that person's hands so that they can experience it. And so a lot of the time we'll take the tools and we'll hook them up to the pneumatics and whatnot, and we'll get sparks flying or whatnot. We sort of like to do the fishing lure mechanism because our tools can grind and whatnot, but also then they come in, they get engaged, they ask the further questions, and then we get them as sort of like we'll call it a sales qualified lead, that they're interested, they want to get more information, and from there we can send them down the sales funnel. So from a trade show perspective, like I say, I think outside of doing some raw research with SIC codes and just basically ancillary industries, this is the one time you can get right in front of them, especially if they don't know you, and get them engaged and wanting to know more. So that's my two-good answer.
Yeah, it is. Cathy, why do you think trade shows are so important in any business?
I actually started out my career working as an account executive for an advertising agency actually in Rochester, and my customer was Kodak, when Kodak was a big deal, and it was professional portrait market for papers and film. And I actually went from the agency standpoint and found information from the competitors. So that's another great reason to go to a trade show, is you want to know what your competitors are doing. I needed to know what the newest films and the newest papers were that Fuji, et cetera, was putting out, and understand their marketing and the niches that they were going after. Usually, it's the photographers, or I was specifically for portrait markets. So I actually was doing kind of reconnaissance, mission kind of a thing, finding out who specifically from an advertising agency point of view was targeting Kodak's specific portrait market with a particular, paper or film at that time. So that's another great reason to go to trade shows, is you want to know what your competition is doing. And of course, they're all hyped at telling what's the newest thing out there, and you want to know what the newest thing out there is. And we actually had people go from booth to booth acting as, just a customer, and you can get a lot of great competitive information just asking a lot of questions. So that's another main reason. I mean, it's kind of obvious, and that was good information about why you want to display or go to a trade show, but finding out your competitors' information is key.
Very true. And even in this day of social media, there's nothing like face-to-face and shaking someone's hand, where you can actually talk to someone. If maybe you've been sending them emails and, you know, all have had communication, but to actually meet someone face-to-face makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the sales reps are all about just blah. They just want to get out all that information, so you can just take in quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to start this next question with Ron, because your company actually does trade shows directly. Once you've outlined the goals of the trade show and you sort of communicate it to your team, what generally are some of the goals of your trade shows? Is it introducing a new product, getting a new candidate, a new client, or what are some of the goals that you have when your team attends trade shows?
Is it okay if the answer is yes, all of that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no, but in all seriousness, you know, it'll start at the beginning of the fiscal year. What are our macro goals? So like this year we have a couple product launches, so that's the first time that people are going to see this tool in action if they haven't been demonstrated out in the field yet. So our biggest show is actually coming up in July out in Las Vegas, so we're setting up a couple stations where we can get people to use it. We'll have our people use it. We'll have competitive tools on there as well as competitive abrasives and such. So that's really where we start with that. So it starts with like the macro goals of our organization. There's another macro goal that we're doing that might be a cost savings initiative. So how do you demonstrate that? Well, with us, it's how quickly can you get the job done. So we'll have probably like, you know, a less than perfect station, and we'll have a better station, and we'll show them the difference and why Dynabrade makes that difference. So this is the time that you get like a few minutes of those people's attention, and you can actually quantify or get them to experience what you're trying to get them to understand about your tool or your product or whatnot. So that really is what the macro goal, the true goal is to get them to say, yes, scan my badge, get the lead, what information you want. You just want to catalog and quantify that, or qualify that, excuse me. But it's what are those tactics, what are those things that are going on, because the trade show is really a tactic in getting the overall goals conveyed to the end user, or for us, a distributor might be walking around as well. But that's how it sort of starts. It starts with what are we really going to launch, what do we really want to communicate, and then those are the two key things, because you might have 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of time in a trade
Not
show.
even.
Yeah. so yeah. So
6 seconds. Of
yeah. 6 seconds.
Right.
Well, that's why we throw sparks,
Yes.
to make them stay.
Yeah.
Cathy, I know your clients are doing trade shows now, so what do you think when you speak with them? And I know you provide them with promotional items, so you obviously speak to them about their goals, what they're trying to accomplish. So what have you seen?
And what I also try to do is help them to kind of capture that person for either a little bit longer, or create some buzz to get people who might not have come, you know, back around to come back, even if it's just to, you know, grab a, you know,
Water.
a
With the
water
label
or
on
something
it, yeah.
free, or
Right.
whatever, a promotional item of some
Mhm.
sort that has either your brand logo or a branding message. But anytime that I do my job well, as far as pulling people back to that booth to see, you know, the beautiful graphics, even if they're standing, you know, a ways away and they're just kind of honing in on what we have to give out or whatever. When Francine's done her job very well, which she does all the time, there's immediate impact, and with the bullet points or whatever that is on the display. So it's just a matter of getting people to come back around sometimes. But the main thing is to have the goals be kind of consistent, as far as to the audience that you're trying. You have to know who your audience is, and you have to know how many times you can hit them. So the promotional item might be one time, the interaction might be another time, the follow-up mailing might be another time, or even mailing a companion item, I'll say, to a promotional item that you've given them at the show, or pre-mailed. You can do the whole pre-mailing thing, and mail an item that, hey, come to our booth and get this companion item, you know, with this, you know, and it all carries the brand or a particular message
Right.
at that time. So the key is just to like you said, have the macro goals there too in line, and then drill that down.
Scott, what do you think your clients' goals are when they go to trade shows?
I think it's always different. I think it's, from a marketing company standpoint, it's really important that we define that, because it's going to dictate everything from the graphics, how they present, what they're going with. We had an example recently where a company makes up all kinds of parts for the power industry, and they do very well with that. They always want to sell more and get into other markets, but they make a much larger profit on custom solutions. Parts, they compete with other companies head to head. It's a lower profit margin, but a custom solution, they do very well. There's a bigger profit in it, and not everybody can handle that kind of thing. So with them, we established right from the beginning, the booth graphics, the literature, video, everything that we put on there was about custom solutions. And so that was really their goal, was to get that word out and to push it. And I think it comes right from the beginning to identify that and to really focus on that.
I'm going to stay with you for the next question. We're talking about budgets. Now, do you get involved in your clients' budgets as far as trade shows, and how do you establish your budget with all of you? Again, you're doing it directly, you're dealing with clients who need your product for trade shows, and you're doing the marketing part. So how do you establish the budget with clients for trade shows? It's
usually, I mean, if there's an existing budget, great. I've found with trade shows, more than anything, there usually is not. They don't really have a great idea of what this is going to cost, and you give them some ideas and they want everything. Let's do all of this stuff, and it obviously is going to cost too much. So basically what we do with budgets with companies is we try to identify what they're trying to do, size of the booth that they're going to have, what we're going to use for support materials or premium items that we would give away, and how we can build it from there. And for some of them, you basically show them almost a laundry list. Hey, this is what we could do, this is what the price of these things are. And sometimes, obviously, they can't do everything, but what they do sometimes is they get what they've done, what they want, and in the future, if they can add on to that booth in some way or do something that's a little bit further, they'll do it. But I've found with trade shows that people don't really have a great idea of what it's going to cost to get that message across.
You're right. Ron?
So being in my position at this organization only a year, I've been in other organizations, B2B and B2C. I found that, like in Dynabrade, we had an established budget that sort of just rolled year after year. I'm more of an analytical standpoint, so like in my position now as director, I've now started to say, all right, well, what was the ROI there? What are we doing there? Are we getting enough leads? What's the cost per lead that we're doing there? And then what was the follow-up? How many conversions did we get? If we got 300 leads, but we got one conversion, that was all great that the cost per lead was down, but it still hasn't paid for the entire program of what we had spent there. So that's how I tend to look at like sort of the post analysis, which then will drive what am I doing next year, because me as the director of marketing, I want my budget to be bigger next year. So I'm going to do more impactful. I don't want them to take away my budget in the higher level. I want to get more and establish more. So that's sort of how I start to plan out that budget, knowing how many shows we're doing. Like this year, we're a little light just because there's some that are some biannual, like it's once every 2 years or so. But, I can...
A little light meaning only 20?
The amount, no, we're probably doing about eight trade shows this year, but like when we get like some of the bigger ones. But next year, I know that there's 2 national ones that only happen once every 2 years that are big. So I might be carrying over some of this budget knowing that I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, because I know I want to make more impact at those rather than just do the same thing over and over again. Again, then it comes down to what am I trying to communicate, how much am I trying to communicate it this year. So we have different displays, like we'll have some displays that might be like this, but we'll have some that like huge booths and whatnot. So where do I want to spend the extra money in the freight and the building and all of that, the travel and everything.
Yes,
exactly. So you establish how big is that show. How many attendees are going to be there? How many attendees are like relevant to us? And look at it that way and say, all right, I'm going to do this one this big, but I'm going to hold back on this one. Maybe I'll get a 10 by 10 booth, but this one I do like a 20 by 20. I might want my van there. I might want to have a big display behind me because I'll get people to really draw and go, holy cow, what's that? And, then they get attracted to the TV that's playing all about our new product launch, and then they see the product being used there, and I get them to use the product, and hopefully then, you've got all of this like stimuli going on, and I've spent, you know, X amount of dollars on it, but I knew it would be really impactful there. So, you know, that's my long-winded version of that. So.
Okay. Cathy,
Did you have a timer? Who
No, that's my wife texting. She's the only thing like that, so hopefully everything's okay.
There's a timer on this. What's interesting when you come to the promotional product side of things, by the time Manzella spent all the money on the, you know, the advertising and the marketing side of it, people come to me and say, we just want something cheap. We just want something really cheap. And the challenge with that is that actually, you know, sometimes goes to give an indication of what, you know, you think of actually your own product. So the key is to carry the brand message, and that's important. But the other thing is there's a lot of ways to get a little bit more of a perceived value with an item and not have just, you know, there's ways to not put out piles of pens and have the person who walks by with the bag, you know, who just took $15 worth of pens, when you were trying to just spend 69 cents. So what I teach people to do is how to hand out a promotional item instead of just piling things on a table. There are ways to either hand something out when they have filled out a card, or hand something out that has a little bit more perceived value when they're actually standing there talking to you, not necessarily just the walk and swipe, you know, people. So there's a lot of ways to lower the cost, actually, of what is going out. And then when you do have an item sometimes that has a very low perceived value, the salespeople kind of feel that too. And so they actually start shoving 2 or 3 or 4 of the things into people's hands because they feel it's cheap. So if they have an understanding that there's a value there, if they see it having that value, then they will be more particular about handing out that item to you. You can always talk to your sales staff and say, hey, listen, you know, we spent a little bit more this time. Actually, it may not be total budget-wise. You don't have to tell them that. We spent a little bit more to have a nice item. Please don't just give it out willy-nilly. Let's make sure that we're getting a qualified prospect, and that's who's getting it. That's one way to, you know, I could go on and on about this one. This is
great.
Scott,
What's that?
it's your turn.
Oh, he answered that one.
You did answer. Okay, then let's go to the next one. I always compare a trade show to a wedding. You wouldn't consider holding a wedding without inviting guests. So I always say, when people go to a trade show, I mean, the responsibility to promote the show is a show promoter, but whose responsibility is it to promote you attending, being at the show? So how do you do that? What is your pre-show marketing strategy? And I'm going to start with, for your clients, obviously, in your case, I'm just going to start with you.
A lot of it depends on budget, how aggressive they're going to be, the kind of show it is, who is going to all be there. What we do a lot, you can do the simple basic things. Go to your email contact list, send out, we're going to be at this show on this date. Stop by and see us because we have this, or we have this new technology. What we've been doing for a lot of customers is we've been a little bit more aggressive using digital marketing, where they'll give us a list of, this last one we did, they had a list of 25 customers across the country that they have not doing work with, but they wanted to, or they've been having conversations with. We delivered display ads to just their rooftops 2 weeks before the show. We're going to be at the show. Come see us at the show. We're showing off this kind of technology. And then at the show, we deliver display ads to come see us at the booth to the convention center and all the supporting hotels around there. So their message is getting pushed out. The first show that we did it with, they had 30% more leads than they did the previous year. The next show we did it at, they had never been at the show. They had not been at the show for a very long time, and it was a huge success. And so everything is return on investment. To spend X, if we get a third more leads, are they high qualified leads, and are we getting business out of it? So we do things like that that are a little bit different and try to separate that client out from their competitor.
Thank you.
So it's a relatively new concept at my organization to start to do integrated marketing. So, you know, everything was sort of its own tactic and its own island a little more pigeonholed. But I come from an integrated marketing background, so what have we started to do is tagging our ads, our publication ads that are going out there, doing exactly what you said, sending out an e-blast. It was sort of like a new concept. We didn't really do a lot of e-blast, but now just to give you a perspective too, is that I have basically an internal marketing organization. So I've got a digital operations manager that runs our e-blast. I've got graphic designers in-house that will do that sort of thing and design them for me. So if I come up with the messages, like you say, the creative director, they can create that and then get it out. But like e-blast to our email lists as well as our distributor lists, if they want to bring in any of their end users that might want to engage. I've started putting for this upcoming trade show, we're going to putting things in the SIG file that we have, so everybody's signature says, come see us at this booth on this time, come see that. Using it on social media, so Facebook, you can target, engineers if I wanted to, and make sure that that ad is promoted just to them. LinkedIn is another one, so just trying to engage in different ways. It used to be just sort of word of mouth, but I'm going to see and rate, all right, if we got 300 leads last time and now we're up to 500 and the attendance level hasn't really changed, some of these tactics might have worked or whatnot, and we'll figure that out. And we can. The nice thing with social media and whatnot, you can see when people clicked on it or engaged to that. So you can start to gauge where you're getting that return on investment, as you had mentioned, in bringing more people to the booth. So all of those things I highly encourage doing, because how many touch points do you need to have? Like 7 before something's really ingrained at this point. So I mean, the more you can blanket it, and especially a small organization, small enterprises, if you look that big, people start to think, oh wow, they're really something. So you want to do it that way, and there's affordable ways to do that, like I just mentioned. So
Reception.
exactly.
Reception, yes.
Yep.
And Cathy, you
Yeah.
touched a little bit on it before with sending companion pieces ahead of time.
Exactly.
Yes.
And some of the things that we might do as a promotional mailing, just even a postcard, bring this to the booth to get, and people, I mean, again, you just want them to the booth, and then you can get them into what you sell and get into all of that. But it's amazing, people like the free gifts, and and so that mailing can be very targeted. You would talk to even 25 people. It could even be 1,000 people, but it could be just to ask them to come to the booth, bring that card, bring whatever, or it even could be some sort of a QR code on their phone. And you could, and because they got that mailing and remembered in the whole bit, that whole pull through then is to give them that would be that third tier gift, because we provide the really, really inexpensive, if you just want to have one for everybody kind of a thing, and then the little bit nicer gift that might be behind the counter that you only give someone who you're interacting with. The even nicer promotional item, again, with your branding message or your logo or both, that would be, again, something even nicer. And again, the price points are all over the board. And then to the point where we even provide, a lot of times, I can get what I'll call a spec sample with your logo or branding message of really anything. So if you wanted to do a fishbowl, enter to win this kind of an item, and it's, and normally people run to Best Buy and buy a TV and throw it up there and, whatever, but we can provide a beautiful Bluetooth speaker, or actually we have all name brand items, so we can provide any name brand item with a logo on it, and that might be just the one item that you bring for that fishbowl, enter to win kind of a thing.
Right.
So but back to the during the show too, that social media is, people do this all the time. It's pretty funny. Hey, such and such a company has,
Right.
cool tchotchke number, whatever, and, use it. You can send out the social media that says, hey, such and such a booth has.
Technology is
It's
technology.
amazing.
And we were at our own trade shows, Bill and I, in March in Las Vegas, and that's all it is, technology. People tweet and say, come and see us, because they have the mailing list. It's constant
Right.
technology.
Right. But the old-fashioned way of doing it, this is off that subject a little bit but a fun story that we did at one trade show was it was actually a whole group of people that we had, and we prearranged this, and we had done a bunch of red caps, bright red caps with, a certain logo on it. And at one particular point in the show, we donned a cap on every head and then sent them scattering. And then all of a sudden, people just saw, these red hats appear everywhere. And a lot of people then said, hey, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? And drove them back. So that was the old-fashioned way before we had
It still
Twitter.
works. Trust me, it still works. It's still anything to appeal to the senses. It
Exactly.
works. You have to appeal to the
That's
senses.
a perfect, exactly.
Yes. I always say, always appeal to 3 out of the 6 senses at your booth. So we talked about budget. We talked about the goals. We talked about pre-show marketing. Now, I think to me, one of the most important things is the people in the booth. So how do you prepare your people in the booth? Because I can tell you, many times salespeople don't want to be there. They say they'd rather be on the road selling. That's what they want to do. They just drop their briefcase there and they talk to each other. So how do you prepare? Is that something you get into with your clients?
Well, and not to the actual personalities per se, that really isn't our choice, but I think one thing to really keep in mind, and you helped us a lot with this, with different booths, is having it be welcoming. We had dealt with one company that loved to have a big barrier in front of their booth, this high, and they would lean on it and put their product up on it, and it's a bit cold, to be honest with you. And the new booth uses podiums and people can walk in. It's much more welcoming.
It's like a bar.
They can
Everybody
move
approaches a
around.
bar. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think rather than the personality, I think it was just the experience of coming into the booth and feeling like they were more welcome to come in and talk to people.
That's very true.
From a, sort of getting our sales force, because again, we'll have a lot of sales force, we'll have maybe our corporate trainer out there, might have our product managers out there, but we'll usually send an informational packet as to, location and all the stuff, what to wear what day, but we'll train them prior to as to, like I said, we're having a new product launch. So we've already created a video, we've shared the video, told the video that it's going to be at the booth. We have a training video for them that we webinared and whatnot, so that they know, like, really the selling technique that we want them to use at the booth while they're doing it. You mentioned a very good point, some booths that I've been to, it's like this 10-foot wall, it's a table across, and Dynabrade is in part, we do that sometimes, and we'll just lay all the tools out, and it's like, you sort of create a barrier, and people that get to see the sparks are cool, but then the people aren't really engaged, they're not coming in. So this next show that we're doing, we're having like stations, like I said, we might have a downdraft table over here that we'll use a tool, we might have a vacuum over here, but there's pathways in so they can get to the shelves, look at the tools, and actually engage our selling staff so that they can, it's almost like a, one-stop shop, they can go shopping, if you will. But all of that's taken into consideration when prepping our sales force so that they know. And then one thing that, there's a couple things, I should say. When you have, some shows where you're just sitting or whatnot, I've found, I don't want to say don't use chairs, but sometimes you'll have, the guys that don't want to be there, they're they're sitting there staring at their phone.
Yeah.
They're not engaging. They're not looking out at the audience. They're not pulling people in. They're not engaging in tools. This was at my previous job. But, one thing that we did, we said, the phone's got to go away. The phones, you can charge them behind the display or whatnot, but you can't be on your phone or whatnot, because your job is to try to engage and bring them in, not to, and that's just the nature of the beast nowadays with technology.
It is.
You're checking your emails. These are salespeople. They want to know what's going on. They want to, I got something, I got to make a phone call or whatnot.
They should almost leave the booth when they do that.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
Because then that turns the attendees off.
You see it so much
Yes,
now.
absolutely. Yeah.
I get into the dressing of people.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
is very important because it can tie
Yeah.
into the color palette that the booth has, or that it's the logo colors, etc. And shirts can have messages all over them. We can embroider here, we can embroider here, we can embroider back here. If you're walking through the booth and somebody's just, or through the trade show and somebody's walking behind you, your shirt literally could say, stop and see Dynabrade booth number, whatever. I mean, you can buy a shirt that you just wear for that show.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you can do. There's embroidery, heat seal. We can actually fully dye sublimate a shirt that literally could have any graphic from the booth on it. And you can be very professional, but if everybody's dressed the same and it's bright and it's welcoming and it ties into the booth look, that you've killed it. You've killed it when they all look sharp. and you know, clean and neat, and you get them enough shirts that it's, if they're there for 5 days, go ahead and get them 5 shirts.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
to
I
keep
get
it
it,
nice
yeah.
and fresh and clean,
Right.
and just marry that whole look of the booth all together.
I can't agree with that more. There were
Yes.
a few times in a couple organizations where that guy's got the polo shirt and that guy's got the dress shirt, and it just doesn't look like the same.
Yeah.
Even though, like, it might say, you know, whatever organization on there,
It's
on
not
the
the
top,
same.
it doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
The real key ones is if everything functions together.
Yeah.
I can't
Yes.
remember the one competitor I saw, but they were all orange. It wasn't our orange, but a different all orange, and they were all in orange as well. It was just like stunning. You couldn't
Yeah.
help but you were like, what's going on there?
And then you know who
You
to
know,
talk to within the
exactly.
booth. Who's the salesperson for
Yep.
this? Because you know
Yeah.
you can't miss them.
Yep.
Right.
And if you have an unusual, you know, situation where maybe you've got someone who's very large, then we start with what he can wear, and
So it's
everybody
flattering
else.
to everyone.
Exactly. You
Right,
start with
right.
what we can get, and I can
Right.
get up to 10x in a shirt. So we can start with, yeah, that's a little hard to walk, but we can, you know,
Wow.
but we can get, you know, you start with maybe your more difficult person to dress, and then make them look great, and everybody else will be fine.
You've got great comments, really great comments. It's wonderful to hear all the comments that you're sharing with us. Okay, so we've done all the steps here. Now we've closed the show. The booth is being shipped back. Everybody's going home. How do we follow up? And that's the biggest question, the biggest question. So, start with you, Cathy.
If you want to include, I mean, there's a lot of ways to follow up, but you can break out your list of who came to the show and kind of who showed what interest the most. And of course, you have to do that anyway, because you're not going to be able to follow up, hopefully, on all the leads that you get. So the people who actually came, set an appointment or demonstration, follow-up, whatever, you want to get back to those people right away. And again, it could be a thank you for coming to the booth with some sort of a small promotional item, etc. And then, you know, get that appointment set up. Then, you know, you can just go back down the levels if you want. If you want to send out something to everybody, but the key is you can use a promotional item, again, with that brand, with that tagline, with, you know, whatever it is you're trying to put on there. And it can be easily tied into actually the product, too. You can't send a sander buffer thing, whatever, through the mail, but you could send, I'm not coming up with it. I probably
I'm
should.
sure you'll
We've
figure it
done
out.
USBs about the information of the
There-
products
well,
online,
that's-
you know,
yeah.
I mean, and then they're always using it, you know, like, that's an easy
Yeah.
thing, rather than
Right,
sending,
right.
like, you know, our catalog's this thick, it costs
Right.
like $5 to make, and
Plus, they
however much.
throw
the-
it out most
and-
of the time.
yeah,
Yes,
well,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
We're more in an industrial, I didn't mean to step on your toes,
No, no,
you know,
but-
but that's like things that we'll send out, catalogs, and those are like silent salespeople, we'll call it, because even if it goes to procurement buyer or whatever, it sits on their desk for whatever, and when they need that next thing, it comes in, but you're
Yep,
exactly right.
a USB with the logo,
Yeah.
that's what we handle.
Yeah.
And with the, loaded with the information, or video or anything,
Yep.
catalog video,
Absolutely.
whatever, yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, in the cases we dealt with, usually if it's a broad range like country or international, obviously it's the individual sales reps that go right at them, and usually they set a time frame up front.
Right.
And then they always retain all the information for continued follow-up from an email standpoint.
Right.
I love the follow-up with some sort of device or something. I think that's a lot more memorable because they are getting inundated by a lot of different things, and I think that can be very effective.
And they've already taken all of the paper that they've picked up,
Yeah.
and they've actually thrown all of it
Exactly.
away
Oh,
before they
absolutely.
left the hotel.
90%.
Yeah, absolutely. Leave them
90%
with
is
something
thrown
else.
away.
Yeah.
There's also, again, when Bill and I were at the show in Las Vegas, there's technology now that the prospect receives an email that night.
Oh, yeah, you can,
That it was so great to see you today, and this is this and this and this, we discussed this, and this is the information, just a minor information, but I'll follow up with you that night. There's technology where they can actually do that, which is wonderful.
Nice.
Okay, so you have all kinds of good advice for all of us. In your time of dealing with trade shows or clients who have gone to trade shows, what are some of the mistakes you think that trade show exhibitors, that exhibitors do, or people who work the booth do? What are the most common mistakes that I think could make a difference in the outcome of the show? Scott?
Other than obvious things like follow-up or not following up, that kind of thing, the thing that we see a lot is a lot of companies are very internally focused. So that when they're building the booth, doing their literature, doing their branding, it's with, you've got people that have worked at that company for years and years. Everything is from their own perspective. I don't think they do enough research to see what competitors are doing. I don't think they do enough research to see what is more modern from a design standpoint, to interacting with their customers more. I think a lot of people rest on the laurels of having older literature, things that just aren't resonating or separating them out from their competition. It's the biggest thing that I see is just that a lot of people like to see end use for the product, and a lot of it tends to be very focused on just minute things like the product itself. And that's the biggest thing I think is a mistake, is that they continue to do the same thing over and over again with kind of the same results.
Right.
I can't agree with that more. It's doing the same thing over and over again. There are a couple competitors that I know that, like, when I used to go to trade shows for 8 years, they had the same booth. It's like, it's not stimulating anymore. You sort of know what you're going to get into because you're like, oh, it's so and so,
Right.
And then agreeing with you and with Cathy, like doing your competitive analysis while you're out there. You got one opportunity to find out what are they working on, what are they promoting. Maybe you have a couple opportunities because you're running into them in multiple shows, but doing that sort of thing is integral. And then other mistakes, we'd mentioned them, that not looking uniform, having that barrier. I can't tell you how that barrier
barrier's awful.
That barrier is awful. You need to engage them, how to break down that barrier and bring them in. When we used to have 10 by 10 booths, we would never put the table up there. We'd put it behind us with the product, and we just have some pedestals so they could come in, and then we can bring them in and they can see the products. But those are all, like, real key things as to where you could easily make a mistake. And as you had mentioned, Scott, too, making sure that material is up to date. If it's the same brochure that you had, and it's from 2008, you're probably not going to get the same impact because the market's probably changed at that point. You're still talking about something else, so make sure that it's all pertinent to the audience that you're talking to.
As far as the booth design goes, think about what your salespeople are standing on. If it's a hard floor, bring a carpet and some padding. It drains you, so you don't want your salespeople looking tired at the 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They are white, and it's because it's their energy's been sucked out their legs if they're standing on a concrete floor. So that's the thing I know from myself standing at trade shows. I'm extremely aware of what I'm going to be standing on. It's like one of the first things. I don't care about the electricity. I care about what I'm standing on. I know I'm going to wear comfortable shoes, etc. But they have to be on, all day long. It's exhausting. So I think one of the things is people don't. They go. And I blame it on guys. Sometimes they're like, oh, the guys don't even think about it, But I have to. What?
No. My other organizations had the padding. This organization, Dynabraid, the owner of the company was like firmly against it. You're there to sell, blah blah blah. The first show I went to, I was like, how are you guys standing here for 4 days? So that was one of the first things I changed and put in the budget. I don't care what it takes. These guys, especially when you're not having seats either.
Right.
So you're on concrete for 8 hours. Maybe it's 12 hours. I mean, sometimes that's how long a show goes. It's tough.
That's my pet peeve. It has nothing to do with promotional items. It has everything
Trust
to do
me,
with.
that was the first thing
And all of this results in the studies have proven that 86% of decisions of buying at a show is based on the personnel at the show. 86%. So if your people working the booth are tired, they're not well prepared, they don't pay attention to the attendees, they don't ask qualifying questions.
And sometimes even too, if they're so distracted by everything that's going on,
Right.
they have to. It's just a personal situation that you might want to make them aware of it. If they're not, if you're going to have a conversation with someone, have a conversation with them and finish it. And then look away. But
Right.
if you're always looking away at
Who
other
else is there?
people,
Right.
they don't.
Right.
You've
Right.
lost them, and it's.
Yep.
Yeah, you can
Yes.
really lose a good customer that way too,
Absolutely.
even if you're supposed to be. So you need to have enough personnel in the booth too.
Well, it's the sort of the guideline is 2 people per 10 foot. That's the guideline. 2 people per 10 foot is enough. After that, it multiply
Yeah.
after that. And you should never leave the booth unattended.
Correct.
Always have somebody there. Even if you're alone, say to your neighbor, just watch, sometimes you have to go. But any questions from our illustrious speakers here? You've given us so much information. It was great. Any questions?
Oh, is that you started?
No, I've got a question. I just want to figure out how I want to work it.
Go ahead.
If you're working on a limited budget, what are the most important things to do?
Well, I would have to start with actually make sure your display is current and graphically appealing,
I would concur,
and at
yeah.
least it has the few bullet points that you want to get across. If you're not able to talk to someone, then they have to, and it can't be at the bottom. It has to be,
Right.
So I would honestly go back to what Francine does. Is that's the most important. That's what they're going to see from across the room, and that actually is probably the most important. If you're limited, you've got to start there.
I agree. It's the look and it's the fishing lure. Like, how are you
Yeah.
going to get them in? It's not going to be a pen or whatnot. Like I say, it's easy for us. We create sparks. Somebody's going to look over and walk over, see what's going on. But it's really creating that fishing lure. We used to, at a previous job, we just put a TV out there, and a TV does all the difference in the world. All of a sudden, there's something
Yeah.
to watch, and people just stop.
Right.
And it's just looping, but they're reading the information and whatnot. You got them there. Now you have a chance to reel them in. They might not be close to you, but you say, hey, do you want any more information about that or whatnot? So those all can be done on a limited budget. But the it's making sure that you're exactly right. The messaging is right. They're drawn, and that you can pull them in or at least stop them, because look, there's probably like
You've
1,000
got that
booths there.
6 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
6 seconds,
So-
and whatever you do, appeal to at least 3 of the senses. So
Yep.
if it's sight, and the new thing here also is having an iPad stand, so that if you're busy with someone, your stand is there, and you can have something on the iPad, and
Mhm.
people at least can scroll through the iPad, and which is a very big thing, because it keeps people busy while if you are busy, and it attracts them. So remember the senses, whatever appeals to the senses will do it.
The one show we did, it was just a tabletop show, and we had, found out from them from previous shows that it was just tablecloths over tables, and most people were using blue, black, or white. And we went through Francine, and we got a bright gold one, and with their logo on the front. They commented on that immediately after coming back from the show, that at least it stood out a little bit different from other people there.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. You do, I'm sorry. Go ahead, go ahead.
Going further on that, as far as drawing people, and that's the hardest thing that I've come across because a lot of the shows I do are bridal shows. And drawing the people to your booth, sometimes they don't even want to look at you.
I know.
And you try to, at least when they're going by, you try to at least hand them a brochure or something so they can at least have something, whether you're wasting money or you're going to take that and throw it out like you've mentioned. And the other thing is, at a bridal show, it's a little bit different. I mean, that I found is very difficult is to try to get them to book at the show rather than later. I mean, we throw great bridal show specials that are only available at the show, and we constantly find that we're extending that offer because we don't get enough at the show to make it warranted for us to be
You're
there.
very unusual. Bridal shows are very different.
They're very tough at trying to figure out, and this...
Business to consumer shows are very different from business to business shows. So you have challenges, no question.
Even in the past couple of years at the bridal shows, it seems like attendance is down at bridal shows. People are doing more online.
Yeah.
And the ones that are there, you wonder, are they just there just to get the freebie stuff that's given out? Because they always get free stuff at a bridal show. And it's a really tough challenge. Three, 4 years ago, we booked like 5, 6 at a bridal show. Last year, we were at some of the big ones too. We were at the Niagara Falls Seneca Casino. We were at Adams Mark, and those are really good shows for us. We have 2 bookings at each one, and it's tough.
Have you thought of doing maybe a giveaway of one freebie, and then have an iPad set up that they can enter and whatnot? And now you're capturing the leads, and it can go back to when you said people are calling them almost immediately after they're off the floor. I don't think that that's the type of show for that.
No,
But if
not for
you,
that,
but if you
no.
followed up like the next day on the people that had like entered and whatnot, I don't know if that helps at all, because I know you want to book at. But, you know, getting them engaged and getting their information, first thing is getting their information, at least, you know, that they wanted to be, that they were there and they wanted something there.
Is it
you know?
too much to ask for people to have a clipboard and say, can we sign you up
Yes.
for a consultation?
Yes,
to,
yeah.
You run like
Let
a
them engage.
You can run a Facebook contest.
Yeah.
You can do proximity marketing with Facebook.
Yep.
Like radius within what, a mile, and get a certain ad or a certain distance away for a discount for package. So you first get to be at the event-ish.
Yeah.
Within a mile, and you get a certain ad for your Facebook if you have the app
Yeah,
or the browser open.
Facebook would be easy for promotion.
I do like the idea of maybe running a contest with a fishbowl,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because then you got your leads right there from.
But
And
you
do
have
it
to
with the
make sure
iPad.
though that if they put their
Yeah.
name in, that
Yeah.
they are
Do it with an
candidate.
iPad, though.
But
Yeah.
they are
Because they're
candidate.
consumers, so they might not have a business card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
longer to stand there and
yeah.
write.
Get them engaged that they can like go. boop, boop, boop.
Right.
Something
Make it a
you can
game.
check.
It could be like a push,
Yeah.
you know, sign up with Facebook or something.
Yeah, or game, some
Yeah.
kind of a game, right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's give a round of applause for Daniel. Really appreciate it.
I know I have some, I'll call white papers and things like that, and some information about trade shows that I can email to you, and you can email to
Great.
anybody.
That would be
We'll
great.
put it up on our website.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did want to let you know, that we have an expert panel for small business owners, so that if you're a member, it's an expert network, not expert panel. But if you have a question about something, let's say it's about trade shows, let's say it's about finance, let's say it's about legal matters, you can call up, ask us. We'll give you 3 people that you can talk to that are going to give you an hour of time free of charge, because we know how hard it is for small business people. So our events, check out our website again, register for the events coming up in June, cybersecurity, and the other events here, the expert series. So thank you again. There's plenty of food. Please take some with you, or take some. And there's still plenty of beer and wine. So
Thank you.
no rush
Thanks
on
again,
on,
everyone.
on
Thank
leaving.
you.
Thank you
Thank you
again.
very much.